He has, unsurprisingly, turned against the Supreme Court that in a 6-3 ruling essentially gutted his signature economic agenda / failure. Jared, were you shocked?
No, I mean, in no way, shape, or form was I shocked by the ruling. I wasn't shocked by his reaction to it. Begin with. So.
Hey everyone, you've joined me in mid-conversation with the mighty, the great Jared Yates Sexton. He is the author of Midnight's Kingdom, the book that is behind him right now. He is also the editor of a fantastic Substack, Dispatches from a Collapsing State, that you must subscribe to. Also, I allowed Danielle to cheat on me with him. He is Danielle's work husband, and they also have a midweek check-in. And I really appreciate Jared joining me. And there's so much to talk about, but the framing of it is the authoritarian monster that not just MAGA created, folks, because I think people keep saying it's just MAGA. Oh, no. I would say it's what America created in the form of Donald Trump. He is turning on his masters. And one of the masters that has helped create him, that gave him, Jared, absolute immunity, that gave him a get-out-of-jail-free card, that has essentially said, go ahead and do what you were doing because it was our agenda. Whoa, though. But when it comes to our pocketbooks, slow down. He has, unsurprisingly, turned against the Supreme Court that in a 6-3 ruling essentially gutted his signature economic agenda / failure. Jared, were you shocked?
No, I mean, in no way, shape, or form was I shocked by the ruling. I wasn't shocked by his reaction to it. I think when you look at Trump, was it with Danielle the other day? Maybe it was on the Muckrake. I can't remember. I was talking about when you think about Donald Trump, it helps to think about Ronald McDonald and the idea that when you're a kid, you think Ronald McDonald runs McDonald's. You know, that he's in the boardroom making decisions.
And he also keeps away the Hamburglar.
Right, exactly. Like that framing when you're a kid, it makes total sense. But when you're older and like Ronald McDonald shows up at like the golf tournament with the big giant check, no adult thinks that Ronald McDonald is the one making decisions, right? Donald Trump doesn't understand that.
Yes.
He thinks that everything that he's doing is of his own volition. Everything that's happening, he's making choices, he's in control. And meanwhile, everybody who is serious understands that decisions are made in the United States of America and in the halls of power on the behest of a wealth class. The group of wealthy people who control everything, who make all these decisions. And here's the thing. The Supreme Court was founded for those people in the very beginning. There have only been a couple of times in which the Supreme Court has ever been progressive. Those have been aberrations. Otherwise, it has been a tool of the wealth class to control politics and to keep anybody who gets in office, who gains congressional power, from doing something that will hurt the bottom line of the wealth class. Donald Trump doesn't understand that. Donald Trump has such a rudimentary, stupid understanding of politics. He honestly believes that as Ronald McDonald, he is the one making the decisions about which hamburgers are coming out. And when you look at the way he reacts to it, the only thing he can do is react angrily. That's the only thing he's got, is if he doesn't get what he wants, he will react angrily and violently. So no, I wasn't surprised by this.
Yeah, and I wasn't even surprised by the Supreme Court's ruling on this, because I remember, I think it was maybe Danielle, we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, about this anticipated ruling. And I said, just look where the Supreme Court has held him in check, very rarely. In the summer, they pretty much through the emergency docket have given him a free pass to do everything he wants. But the Alien Enemies Act has said, okay, that's a bridge too far. That was one. But the other check I remember was with the Federal Reserve, when Donald Trump wanted to get rid of Lisa Cook, who is the only black female on the Federal Reserve. Like, whoa. Right. You can't mess around with the Federal Reserve. Easy there, right? When it came to the Federal Reserve, I was like, oh, okay. So this Supreme Court realizes, it's groomers and it's masters. They realize you mess around with the Federal Reserve, you mess around with the economy, that's bad for business. And in a strange way, they're actually helping him, Jared. They're pretty much saying, listen, idiot, you have a fundamental misunderstanding of how tariffs work. Tariffs are taxes. Also, idiot, you don't understand trade deficits. This is really hurting you. You're negative double digits on this. You're negative double digits on the immigration. You have a 36% approval rating. Hey, let us kind of help you out and save you from your disastrous policy. Why don't you change course? But like you said, because he's Ronald McDonald and thinks he's the CEO, he has his friggin' red nose on. He says, "How dare you? Tariffs." Yesterday was he was in Georgia, touting his economic wins right ahead of the State of the Union. It's like tariffs are still one of my favorite words. Gaslighting America. He goes, I want affordability. I want it. Everyone keeps saying affordability. I want it. You're like, you're an idiot. You are a moron. I can't believe this is happening. But then talk to us about the three. Because I was like, all right, of the three, I'll bet all my limited money, Alito and Thomas. I'll go all in on it. Surprise, Alito and Thomas. But then Kavanaugh. And Kavanaugh essentially gives him like a child, giving like a teacher giving a child, hey, Donald Trump, this is how you can get around it.
Isn't that incredible? Like, it really, truly is. It's hard when you look at, and I just want to take a second, Waj, that I've been saying this lately. Isn't it incredible that we're in a position where, like, Amy Coney Barrett is the swing vote on the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, wherever Amy Coney Barrett ends up, who is just an absolute extremist. And then we have others. I mean, we're basically talking about nihilist authoritarian judges. And the fact that they were in the minority in this situation, it just reveals like they're going to just do whatever they want at any given time. Meanwhile, what else is happening here? There are so many different we talk. I most of the time when you and I talk, we end up getting in the weeds, and we talk about the difference between like what the sort of like homogenized idea of things is, but how you break it down and you start to see there's all kinds of different sort of like focuses and ideas, right? The Supreme Court's like that. Like a lot of them are just interested in carrying out this federalist bullshit that they've been doing their entire careers.
Right.
And many of them do not understand that, much like you brought up the idea of the monster, like the Federalists were used by the wealth class in order to create the conditions where it brought about American fascism. And what does American fascism serve? It serves the oligarchical class, which is separate from the wealth class. There are the people who, of course, have millions and millions of dollars, and some of them have billions. And then you have Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and Jeff Bezos and that different class of people, right? So the Supreme Court is oftentimes still operating in this old mindset where they're still doing the Federalist duty and not realizing that like the clock has changed and the incentives are different. And again, we going back to Donald Trump, he doesn't understand any of this. None of this ever even occurs to him. Going back to the idea of tariffs, Wash, he doesn't understand why he did the tariffs. All he knows is that Stephen Miller and some of the other sort of institute think tank chuds were in his ear telling him to do this. He doesn't understand that he was being tasked to destroy neoliberal globalism in order to hand it over to the oligarchs. He doesn't get that. And meanwhile, you have all these different things that are going in different ways. It's one of the most chaotic, anarchic, like dangerous moments that you could ever imagine. And there are so many people who don't even begin to understand it, who are in the middle of it, making decisions that define it. It's so bizarre.
And they think they could still control them. That's
Yeah.
that was so fascinating. I remember 10 years ago, I was on a CNN panel. It was inauguration day for Donald Trump. So maybe almost almost 10 years ago. And Ana Cabrera, who, when she was at CNN, I used to come on the weekend and she liked me. So she's like, hey, I'm hosting this like 2 hour, like 19 people around a semicircle panel during Trump's inauguration. Come on for 1 second. So I come on. There's literally like 13 people on this panel. It was hilarious. So I remember out of all these people, I was the one. We were talking about Sean Spicer. And if you recall, Sean Spicer was the first press secretary before Caroline Levitt. And Sean Spicer's first press secretary job, if you all recall, was to come out and gaslight the world, speak to the audience of one, and tell us to reject the evidence of our eyes. And it specifically was about the inauguration crowd. Because Ronald McDonald said, I had the biggest, there's no way a black could have a bigger inauguration than me. There's no way this black Muslim, no, it's me, it's Trump. Remember that, folks? And so Sean Spicer came out, literally lied to the world, doubled down on it. And I remember the semicircle was like, well, listen, we'll rein him in. Oh, the Republican elders, the serious people in the room.
Yeah.
And I said, I remember, I hope there's a clip of this. I'm like, what are you all talking about? This is proof of the next 4 years. Like, this is not normal. We're old enough. We've never seen anything like this. This happens in authoritarian regimes. Look at the evidence of your eyes. This man just came out and gaslit us, and his audience is the audience of one. When have we ever seen a press secretary behave like this? And they're like, Waj, no, ooh. And now they think they can rein in the monster that they have nurtured and created, which is, I think, is fascinating, because this monster right now, folks, I don't know if you've seen, he has turned against his own justices. He's appointed two of these mother effers. He calls them a disgrace. He has vowed, just like we said, he said, I'm going to find another way to do the tariffs. I don't care. Tariffs, 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 right? He's an idiot. He's got stuck in his head that somehow America's being screwed in the trade deficit, because he doesn't understand trade deficits. And what I think is going to be fascinating, Jared, is he's going to go up next week, less than a week, State of the Union, and he's going to do something that Democrats should have done. He's going to mock the Supreme Court justices to their face.
Right. And by the way, and they deserve it. Like that's the whole point. And there are moments with Donald Trump that I think are actually very instructive for, if you want to call them the left, you want to call them progressives, wherever we want to go. And one of the things that we need to learn is, you know what? The only reason the Supreme Court has power is because we allow them to have
That's
it.
it.
They're the Tinkerbell of the federal system, right? Which is, you have to believe in them in order for them to be able to fly. Right? You have to say, no, Supreme Court, like you're wonderful. You're a priest class. Everything that you say, you can't ignore them. Like, you can literally say they've made their ruling. Now let them enforce it. And in fact, I would make the argument that if Democrats are serious, and of course they're not, by the way, just because we're in public, and I've been telling everyone who will listen, hats off to my friend Waj for his Hakeem Jeffries interview, but we'll leave that there for a second.
We'll talk about it. We'll
talk about it. They're not serious about this because they understand for years. I mean, Joe Biden could barely be bothered to talk about court reform.
That's right.
And what did America want? They wanted the court to be packed. And guess where we are now in 2026? They should be abolished. Like, they should be gotten rid of. And Donald Trump is going to do that in a way that many of the things that he does, he shows that the guardrails are non-existent. Right? The things that Democrats have spent years being like, oh, I don't know that we could do this. Like, what are you talking about? Are you watching this? He's doing it. Right? And meanwhile, there is the other component of it, and I think it's very, very important in all of this. What you talked about on Inauguration Day. So many of those neoliberal Republican old guard. I think about Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
And I think it is the most beautiful poetic justice that before this man dies, before he slips this mortal coil, he is at least getting to watch the results of his handiwork.
That's right.
I am so glad that he lived long enough to see the final terminal phase of what neoliberalism wrought. And by the way, he's hated. He's hated by both the Republican Party, Democratic Party. He's a complete political orphan at this point because they did not understand that the thing that they were unleashing wasn't going to be under their control. And on that Inauguration Day, it's funny, while you were on Hollywood Squares on CNN, I was out in like the riots and stuff. I ended up at this bar, and I think about this all the time, Wash. I ended up next to a representative from a NATO ally. And we started having drinks, we started talking or whatever. And he told me, he was like, I've been in meetings for days. We know who Donald Trump is. We cannot trust him. He's eventually going to destroy NATO. He's going to work with all of our enemies. He's going to destabilize the American empire and liberal order. Guess what? Everybody who paid attention knew what was going on.
Absolutely.
Everybody who wasn't being paid to look the other way, everyone whose career wasn't based on looking the other way, they knew exactly what the hell was going on. And these people, it's hubris is what it is. It's Shakespearean Greek tragedy hubris that these people thought that they could play footsie with fascism, and it's Republicans and Democrats alike. And every corporation and all of these people, they thought they could play footsie with fascism and come out on the other side. And unfortunately, here we are.
Also, the corporations. The first,
Corporate.
I think what's going to be one of the enduring images when all is said and done is at the second inauguration. Yes, because this idiotic, self-destructive country decided to re-elect Donald Trump with a plurality of votes. Look, folks, who is in the front row. It isn't the right-wing reeks. In the front row
Right.
of Donald Trump's second inauguration, it's the broligarchy. And as Jared said, it's not the wealthy. Oh, no, no, no. It's
No.
not the person who has $10 million. Silly goose. They're not the wealthy. They're not the 1%. It is the titans of industry. It was the Zuckerbergs, and it was the Sundar Pinchays, and it was the Tim Apples, and it's the Elon Musks, and the David Sacks, and the Peter Thiels, the 1%, the broligarchs who are using Donald Trump as like they're stuck on him like a remora, and like this man's an idiot. We know he's an idiot. We'll just whisper in his ear and or we'll ride his chaos. And as we found in the Epstein files, through the very deliberate destruction of the post-World War II order, we shall feast on the destruction and
Yep.
we shall be the ones who will fill our coffers. And then you have these nihilistic judges, like you mentioned, Thomas and Alito, as they're nearing the end and thinking they're going to meet St. Peter, I think they're going to go somewhere else instead. They're wishing the end,
Yep.
right? Because they want dominionism. They want this country to become a white. Yeah, but Clarence Thomas is black. Yes, also Stephen Miller is Jewish. News at 11. All right, Enrique Tarrio is Latino. He still considers himself white. They want power and white Christian nationalism, and they want dominionism. So Donald Trump for them is that nihilistic vehicle, right? The
Right.
funny thing is they think they can still control him. I'm like, you can't. You can control him. And speaking about the Democrats, and I'm glad you mentioned this, uh, Do- Joe Biden, it was in the last month of his presidency that he then, in the final month, Jared, says, here are my Supreme Court reforms. I'm going to just put this like bulletin out there,
Yep.
right? And furthermore, Jared, if you think about it, that Supreme Court decision that gave absolute immunity to Trump, but it didn't say Trump, it said the president, Biden could have flexed it and said, by the powers vested in me, by the Supreme Court's
Yep.
interpretation, I'm going to go friggin' ham. I have nothing to lose. I'm 900 years old. I'm not running again. F it. But he still chose to be a coward. I'm sorry.
He was a
He,
coward.
he flexed.
Yep.
When did he flex? To kill Palestinians.
That's right.
When did he flex to implement Merrick Garland to protect the institutions? But everything else, he's like, oh, this is not who we are, man. And then what I've always given Republicans credit for, Jared, is when Republicans get power, they don't give an F. They don't care about the centrists. They don't care about appealing to the moderate Democrat. They don't care about appealing to the blue voters in the swing states. They're like, F you. We have power. We're going to have permanent tax cuts for billionaires. F you. Donald Trump wants Greenland. We're going to see if we can make it happen. F you. I want Venezuela's oil. F you. We're going to sign an executive orders that says states can't friggin' restrict or regulate AI. F you, F you, F you. And to which I say, they're using their power for evil. But can you imagine if Dems did this and actually implemented reform? And when people get the blue anon, I'm sure they don't like you either. Blue anon says vote blue no matter who. I'm said what you're not realizing is that these Democrats, these neoliberals, these Gavin Newsoms, they're all part of the same club.
They are part of the same club, and I think that there's something that's happening there. The Blue Anon crew. Do you ever have moments, Waj? Like I've never seen you really lose your cool very much, but do you
Right.
ever have moments watching this stuff where you just like have an irrational moment of anger? Right? It
Yeah.
was this trend in the past few days where people are like completely out of nowhere, with no context whatsoever. These people are like, "Well, I don't like Gavin Newsom, but I'll vote for him." And it's like, asshole, no one's asking you to. He hasn't even declared. He hasn't won anything. Why are you already doing this?
Well,
Right? And I know why it is. And I know why all of this stuff is, which is a really sad thing that we have to start admitting. And I promise it hurts and it's going to break your heart and it's going to have a lot of grief, but man, you have all the freedom in the world ahead of you. People have to start recognizing that a lot of people say that they want something and they don't actually want it. And like, if you are like, oh, I support trans people, but I'll vote for Gavin Newsom. No, you don't. You want to believe that you do. If you're like, well, I'm really against what's going on in Gaza, but I really don't want to lose the election, so I'm not going to criticize Biden. No, you don't care about what's happening over there. You actually don't. You want to be perceived as someone who does that. The Democratic Party has a problem with wanting to be perceived as wanting to do the right things, when in fact, the modern Democratic Party, including Hakeem Jeffries, who it's very funny that you'll never get to talk to again, they don't want to use power to do this. They're center right. Basically, they are the new Republican Party.
They are.
The Republicans are fascist, and the Democrats filled in the vacuum. They are now the conservative party. What do they say, Waj? Have you heard one Democrat outside of AOC or Bernie or a handful of people even propose one new thing? No, they're conserving what remains of the old order before the fascists ate it. And they don't even want to conserve that. Matter of fact, they want to take away the money and use means testing that keeps people from actually being taken care of it. So the problem with the Democratic Party and what you just said about the Republican Party is true. At least they tell you we're assholes.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party is the middle manager that gives you a pizza party and says, I'm sorry that we have to lay some people off. That's all they do. They're the ones who come, it's good cop, bad cop. And the moment that you start to recognize that, because watch, here's the thing. If the Democratic Party has something that will expand or help people, man, there's always 2 or 3 Democrats that are going to stand in the way so you can't get past the filibuster.
Shocking.
It's always weird, isn't it? But if you need to pump money into the market in order to make capitalism keep working, you don't really have those 2 or 3 people anymore, do you? It's really strange how it works. And guess what? As people like you and me who enjoy the NBA, we recognize tanking when we see it.
We see you, Utah Jazz. We see you.
We see you. We know what you're doing. And the Democratic Party has been tanking. And that's how it has always worked. And that is what they're already doing. We do not have 2 parties in this country. We have a uni-party that has different values and different goals and different methods of getting to where they're going.
And if you think Jared is being too harsh, yesterday, Bernie Sanders was in California, in my home state, and talking about the need to tax the wealthy, the billionaire tax. Guess who opposed him? Gavin Newsom joining the AI and the crypto and the Broligarch bros. Gavin Newsom joined them when asked, hey, do you support a tax on the wealthy, which is extremely popular across the board? Gavin Newsom said, part of the big tent.
Wait,
Go ahead.
he finished podcasting with Steve Bannon long enough to come out.
Oh, yeah, he did. He found time. But then he found time to podcast, bring on his podcast, Ben Shapiro, where he agreed with them that, right, Israel's not committing a genocide, right? I mean, what more do you all need to see, folks?
What do you need?
They're literally saying no. Folks, if it wasn't even more clear, I don't know if you saw this, because I think it's big news that people aren't paying attention to. And the reason why I think what's going to happen, if indeed we have free and fair elections, Jared, and Democrats win, it's just going to be a trade of the hands. That's all.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to be a fundamental, it'll be like Ronald McDonald bringing in like Ron Jr., the kid, and saying, who's like a little less evil, and saying, all right, you take the keys while I come back. Because folks, if you're paying attention to what Jared said, they haven't proposed anything bold. They're going with the James Carville strategy of play possum. They're viciously attacking the progressives, right? Vote blue no matter who, except Zoran Mamdani. Then we're going to go for Andrew Cuomo, right? Then, I don't know if you've seen this, because I've been paying attention to this, because it's happening in broad daylight. Yesterday, Meta said, we're going to give $65 million ahead of the new elections. Then you had Joe Lonsdale, co-founder of Palantir, joining another pro-AI group that has already poured $100 million in another group. By the way, he put his hat, if you will, he put his little Palantir hat on the Democratic mayor of San Jose. That's his preferred candidate for governor. So he's giving money to the Democrats. Then you have Sherry Bustos, the ex-chair of DCCC and a representative, who's a lobbyist right now, Jared. And last week it was announced she's the head of a center-left pro-growth deregulation group that is going to spend millions of dollars on ads in 2026 and 2028. Guess who her clients are? OpenAI and Oracle. And literally, the Democrats are taking their money. You haven't seen Gavin Newsom and any of these people go against Palantir. I haven't heard him criticize really Elon Musk that much. I haven't heard him criticize Peter Thiel. And for those who are listening, they're like, Yeah, how come they haven't really criticized these people?
Yep.
Because they're getting paid by all of them.
Period. And by the way, when how much money did Elon Musk spend in the 2024 election? Him and Peter Thiel, they bought JD Vance onto the ticket. And you didn't hear anything from the Democrats. And there's a reason, Waj, because they don't want to go after those people. And on top of that, do you know where Elon Musk got that money? The Democrats. The Democrats were in control of the government during the Obama administration when the tech oligarchy was just cutting its teeth. That was the moment that you could have stopped this shit.
They
you
didn't.
could have regulated that.
Nope.
They didn't want to. And guess what? If the Democratic Party is going to actually talk about that, they have a lot of stuff that they have to talk about. They have to talk about the fact that they are responsible for the oligarchy that's in this country now. They need to talk about how they have failed with every social program. They have failed to protect the rights and protections of vulnerable people. On top of that, Wash, they, last time I checked, yeah, that's right. They helped commit a genocide.
Yep.
And not only did they do that, like, we need to look at how people respond to it. So what you just said about the handoff. So what happened when Trump got into office? Suddenly a bunch of liberals were really against the genocide, weren't they?
Yeah.
Suddenly they were. Also, by the way, is ICE an absolutely disgusting thing that needs to be abolished? It is. But guess what? ICE didn't start under Donald Trump. Guess who?
2003. 2003.
Guess who deported more people than Donald Trump? Barack Obama and Joe Biden. What we're talking about is not an actual change. And by the way, like going back to the Jeffries, they can't even say they would abolish ICE. And you know why? They don't want to.
They don't want to.
They helped build it. They want to use it. The difference is that Republicans are celebrating in the violence and the oppression. Democrats want to not show you the violence and oppression. It still happened. They just don't want it to be out in front of things. They helped to create mass incarceration. They have pumped probably more money into law enforcement now that we're talking about it. They have helped create these conditions. They do not want to change them. And they are not going to change them if they get power. You can't just expect everything to be right. And we have to I lived through the Joe Biden presidency. I was told on January 20th of 2021 that the bad days were behind us. You know how I knew it? Because Bill Clinton and Barack Obama were hanging out with George W. Bush, all the good presidents. And notice how they're being absorbed into the Democratic Party. They are the Republican Party of the past.
That's
We
right.
have to demand something different.
They remind me of and they're more comfortable with the Bulwark crew. They're more
Yep.
comfortable with Bill Kristol and Tim
That's right.
Miller and Liz Cheney, and
Right.
and they are even like what, a couple of months ago, Kamala Harris went and like spoke with Tim Miller in front of an audience. She doesn't speak to Daniel Moody. She doesn't speak to Francesca. She doesn't speak to Jared. Gavin Newsom doesn't have any of these people on. Right? They are trying to court this base of center-right folks because they want to go back to the neoliberal George Bush era, right? Where you kind of have, I'll scratch your back, you scratch my back. This is how the business is run. Like, let's go back to good old days. They don't want transformation. They want reformation. And if you think we're just being these crazy liberal, leftist, progressive meanies, follow the money, folks. I'm telling you again, what excuse is it right now in 2026 as the creators of AI are openly saying, if we're successful, this is going to be so disruptive. Their jobs are going to be gone. Entire industries are going to They're saying this with a smile on their face again and again and again. And AI now is openly doling out money, and Democrats are like the seals, just opening their mouths and taking it. And then you have Gavin Newsom joining these same people in crushing Bernie Sanders and AOC's talking point on the oligarchy and taxing the rich. And when given that softball down the middle in front of the world, Gavin Newsom said they're part of the big club. Now they're openly look at Sherry Bustos. Just go look at it. I think it was called New America Fund. She's a lobbyist. Her clients are OpenAI and freaking Oracle. Oracle, which is headed by Larry Ellison, insane Zionist, pro-Trump, pro-Netanyahu psycho who just bought out TikTok. His son, Nepo baby's son, bought out Paramount CBS. Now they're trying to buy out Warner Brothers. Oracle folks just fired thousands of employees to make money to buy another AI data center because banks wouldn't lend them money to create that data center because the banks are probably like, nah, I don't know about this. This might be a bubble that might burst. And how many Democrats have you heard talking about AI, Jared? Really think about it, because this
Yep.
to me now is like a top 5 issue. I'm like, wait a second, who here is like talking about how AI might screw us? Who here is talking about regulating AI? Notice that. Who here is talking about reining it in? And then talking about the next wave, right? This is what I'm worried about, Jared. If indeed, what Democrats, in my opinion, and I just look at the evidence in front of me, they're playing possum. They believe they can roll in, right, and just spike the football. They realize, oh, shoot, we don't have to offer anything because Democrats are winning these special elections. Oh, wait, we don't have to actually take a risk on abolish ICE or ending our money with APAC. We actually are winning in places where we should have lost. Oh, okay, we can continue with the same narrative. We're not Donald Trump. That'll give us victory. And then business as usual in 2028. But my fear is if that happens, Jared, what we saw in 2024, it's going to be business as usual. The economy is going to get worse. Income inequality is going to widen. There's going to be more and more fascism, more authoritarianism. Israel's going to be more insane. We're going to have this broken healthcare system that's not going to be repaired. The rich will get richer. AI, if it's successful, will completely annihilate all these jobs. Or if it's not successful, the bubble will burst. We'll be told,
Right.
too big to fail, bail them out. And then in 2032, we're going to have our first America First Nazi president, because the group that is more critical on AI right now, folks, if you've been paying attention, the Tucker Carlsons, the Steve Bannons, if he's not in jail, the Candace Owens, pay attention to them. They're further to the left on the Democrats on Israel,
Yes.
on elites, and Steve Bannon and these guys are like, we got to do something about AI because it'll destroy thousands of manufacturing jobs. Am I wrong about this?
You're 100% right, and it echoes exactly what happened with fascism and Nazism. Because what happens? The establishment liberals, who, by the way, had already become conservative at that point, were just biding their time. Let those people embarrass themselves, let them ruin this, ruin that. You also missed a couple of existential crises. Climate change is not
Yes.
going away.
Yes.
Climate change,
That's a given. That's a constant.
but it's behind all of it. It's behind, like, you're telling me that we have time to waste on this question? You're telling me we have time to waste when it comes to AI? Like, when people talk to me, I said this the other day with Danielle, people are like, Jared, what do you think is going to happen in November of 2028? Are you out of your mind? 2028? Are you in this country right now? Every single day brings new, fresh horrors. But by the time we're done with this, we might be at war with Iran.
That's right.
And by the way, that wouldn't even be something Donald Trump decided. We're heading into an oligarchical tech weapons industry orgy, is what this is. Because they're selling weapons to everybody, Wash. Every single possible belligerent country is being sold the same weapons and systems and surveillance systems by the same people. And so we're sleepwalking into this thing.
We
So
got to kill some bad guys, as Alex Karp said openly, the head of Palantir. We got to kill some people.
And if you want to understand what it's going to look like, I know people don't want to pay attention to Syria, another break it and you bought it democratic moment. But look at Syria, where in one day you're allies with this group and you're allies with them the next group. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about a giant, dangerous situation. And Democrats truly think, because they are so beholden to the institutions, that this stuff is going to get itself figured out. And guess what, Waj? They're paid so handsomely to believe that. Because it's not just the Democrats. All of the strategists and all the consultants, people are like, oh, it's a Democratic consultant. No, that's their part-time job. It's what they do every 2 to 4 years. Other than that, they're on the boards of these companies. And they're actually getting paid by those people to then go into the Democratic Party and shift things around. It's an insane idea that we're heading towards an iceberg, and they're like, we'll get a little closer to the iceberg. Maybe it will help us out whenever we finally decide to do something. And what's the issue, Wash? They don't have any ideas.
No.
They don't have anything that they want to do different. They simply want to continue what has happened that has delivered us to this spot and live in the most poisonous denial that I have ever seen. And if you don't pay attention to what happened in the 20s and the 30s, like, you have to go back and look at it, because it's the exact same cycle.
Yeah, because this prompted the rise of Nazis. They said that it's the same club.
Yeah.
Look at the establishment. They failed you. We've been humiliated. They've gone money. We can't even we don't even know what the worth of our dollar is from the morning to night, and we have to go back to pride and strength. And then they gave them a scapegoat, and voila, you have the rise of Nazism. You had the Reichstag fire. You had this national security moment, and voila, they literally voluntarily handed power to fascists. And if people think this will just go away, they're not paying attention. And the reason why I'm so harsh on Newsom, on Nancy Pelosi, who just 2 days ago, according to the Axios, Nancy Pelosi, she says, I'm gonna back Gavin Newsom. Nancy Pelosi, who from her hospital bed, I love this story, Jared. Last year, from her hospital bed, rallies votes for Jerry Connolly against AOC.
Yep.
Jerry Connolly at the time was 73, just got diagnosed with cancer, and it was his time to be part of the leadership committee on the House Judiciary Committee, even though the most popular Democrat, AOC, threw her hand in the ring. So Nancy Pelosi is not over my carcass. I'm going to rally votes for Jerry Connolly. You know where Jerry Connolly is right now, folks? He's dead,
And
died. And then Nancy Pelosi also said Jessica Cisneros, a young Latina progressive in Texas, there's no way I'm going to whip up votes for Henry Cuellar. Who's Henry Cuellar? Oh, the guy who got pardoned by Donald Trump for accepting foreign bribes. And then Democrats brought him back. He was anti-abortion, still anti-abortion. And guess what he did, folks? He voted to fund DHS after DHS killed Renee Nicole Good, but a weekend before they killed Alex Preddy, and he just voted for the SAVE Act. Yes, that same act that clearly is designed to suppress voters all across America, specifically Democratic voters. But with centrists like these, just pay attention, folks. And the reason why we're like this, someone said in the comment section, you and Jared are crashing out. We need to organize. I'm not crashing out. Eyes wide open. I think I'm very lucid. I think I'm very calm. I think I see things exactly how they are, folks. What I'm saying is we have to call this out now, because what Blue Anon says is we only have two options: a shit sandwich or a sandwich with shit sprinkles. You get in line, vote blue no matter who, shut your mouth. And I'm at the point now, Jared, I was a loyal warrior for not for the Democrats, but for justice and democracy. I have all the receipts, and I'll hand it over to you. Clinton was never my favorite.
No.
Okay, it's Clinton versus Trump. I'll do everything I can for Clinton. Biden versus Trump. All right, white people, who's your white fighter? Sanders or Biden? White people, you want Biden? I'll go all in for Biden. All right, 2024. Biden versus Trump. Biden, you effed up. You promised not to run again. This is going to be disastrous. You're still in it. Okay, Biden. All right, you're out. Harris, I'm all in. Now look, they have not changed in 10 years, Jared. It's not 1 year. It's not 2 years. It's not 5 years. It's 10 years. I am radicalized. I am done with Pelosi, the DNC, Ken Martin.
Yep.
I'm done with the vote blue no matter who. We have 10 months. My job here is to wake up people, make them infuriated with the DNC so that there's culling. Some big heads role because their preferred candidate loses, like what happened in 2014 when the Republicans rang Aaron Cantor and then David Bratt won. We need two of these scalps, like public scalps of these establishment bigwigs who are going to win, to put the fear of God in them, Jared. And then maybe then we have a chance for a real fighter to emerge in 2028. That's where I'm at. Sorry for my rant.
No, you're dead on. I want to give one piece of history, and then I want to answer what apparently a commenter said. One, if you need to understand what the modern Democratic Party is, people, you need to understand that when Bill Clinton got into office and passed NAFTA, finally cemented it, he didn't come up with that idea. He finished the idea that started under Reaganism, that went through Reagan to George H.W. Bush to Bill Clinton. Neoliberal globalism, which was through free trade and all these ideas. And by the way, Waj, now that we're talking about this, I'm feeling weird because remember how we got told that like all of those things and we're getting rid of manufacturing, that all those people were going to get better jobs? It feels a little bit like AI, doesn't it?
Neoliberalism, failure.
Strange?
Absolute failure.
It's strange. We were promised that things were going to get better, and meanwhile, we ended up here. The history here is that the modern Democratic Party is part of the same club as the Republican Party. And I'm not just saying, like, if you don't believe me, take out a notebook and write down what the Democratic Party has done, and write down on another page, like, What are the things that they've done that have disappointed you? What have you heard? Well, that person's compromised. Oh, maybe they're being intimidated. No, they're making a decision here, whatever. And you'll notice once you start giving up on those stories, it becomes very clear, Waj. It becomes very clear that the wealth class owns every politician that we have, save for a small handful. And isn't it weird that every time that small handful tries to do something different, they get smashed down by the leadership of the Democratic Party? And
Oh,
some
AOC in Munich. Did you know that she didn't know Venezuela's above the equator? Let's do nonstop stories on this for a
never
week.
stop. Oh, and let's quote her trying to talk about something and show her as being totally stupid, right? Listen, I'm not crashing out. My work, when I'm not doing this stuff and trying to educate, I'm out being an organizer because I do not believe that the current Democratic Party is going to save you. You either have to change the Democratic Party or we're going to have to figure something else out. That's it.
That's
Those are the two options. And if you are a Democrat, I'm not a Democrat. I'm an independent who caucuses with the Democrats because the Republicans are straight up fascist. I look at it as gas and brake. I would rather hit the brake a little bit and figure things out and not go completely over the cliff. When it comes to this, if you are part of a party and you can't handle criticism of the party, guess what? You're not in a political party, you're in a cult. And all these years that you've been talking about MAGA, and they are just so out of their minds with how they feel about Donald Trump, look at how you are participating. If you, and again, watch one last thing. You and I are sports fans, right? Do you want the Golden State Warriors to go out and tell Steph Curry if he's like cold from the field, like you're doing everything great, everything's perfect, you don't have to do anything? Or do you want someone coming in and being like, hey, guess what, champ? Your form's a little bit off right now. We've looked at the film. This is where you're coming up short. Do you actually want to win things or do you just want to feel good about things? Because if you just want to feel good about things, you're not participating in politics. You're participating in a consumer relationship.
No, it's a cult-like relationship. I think
Yeah.
there's enough people who are now getting pissed off, and I think we need to see these people clearly for who they are and what they are. And speaking about that, you sent me a nice comment, and I know you want to talk about it. The Hakeem Jeffries moment. I really didn't want a gotcha. I'm telling you all honestly. He was, for those who've seen the larger clip, Joyanne Reid played good cop. We didn't have a plan. He was on. I'm like, oh, he's saying yes, and he knows who I am. All right. I want to ask about ICE. She goes, don't worry, I want to ask about ICE too. She asked him 3 times in a really nice way, 3 times. And he gave that weird AI slop answer. So then I think I had a little bit of passion there. And I thought I gave him an excellent opportunity to be like, yeah, maybe we should abolish ICE. I brought all the facts. But I'm not that dumb, Jared. I knew he doesn't believe in abolish ICE. So this is what I wanted him to say. This is what I thought he would say, Jared. I hear what you're saying. I get it. But this is why we're not going for abolish ICE right now.
Yes.
This is what we're doing right now. And this is the reason for it. And then connect the dots. Much like what Zoran did. I don't know if you saw 2 days ago. That's really like amazing type of blunt. Hey, guys, we need to raise money. This is how we should raise money. I think we should go after like X, Y, and Z. If we don't, we're going to have to do this. I don't want to do that. So, and like that was Zoran literally educating people, being bold, connecting the dots. All right. Instead, you saw Hakeem's response, your reaction to that clip about abolish ICE.
Well, again, I want to give you your flowers, but I also want
No,
to say
not necessary.
I do, but I want to point something out because what you just brought up is important. That wasn't a gotcha moment. You asked him a legitimate question. It only felt like a gotcha moment because Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats like him, they usually only go on media in which they're not going to get asked the question.
That's right.
And by the way, a lot of it is sycophantic. And here's a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge for people who are watching. A lot of the time, it's because the people they're talking to are being directly paid by the Democratic Party.
Taylor Lorenz had a piece on that a couple of months ago.
Yeah, that's been going around for a minute. That people are making upwards of 6 figures in order to host podcasts. I listen. I like getting on here and talking to you and pull the curtain back a little bit. I know we don't need to get completely in the weeds here, but you were doing your actual duty with this man. That's the difference. It's the equivalent, and again, another sports thing. It's in professional wrestling. If people haven't ever heard of the term shoot, professional wrestling is fake, it's choreographed. A shoot is when things aren't choreographed. When someone goes off script and does something different. This was a shoot because you treated him like an adult. You treated him like a person in power, and you asked him a legitimate question, which should not be courageous.
No,
That should
that's
just be a
exactly it.
job. And that's the problem. And by the way, if you want to know like what that says, Hakeem Jeffries is not capable of this job if he can't have an adult conversation with a person who asks him a question that he's not prepared for. It literally was you asking a legitimate adult question and him not being able to handle it and being pissed off about it because, hey, we're on the same team here. What are we doing? There's a script that we're supposed to be staying with here.
Yeah, Trump bad. Trump bad. We not Trump.
Yeah, we're not Trump. What are you doing here, man? Like we're just playing around. Like that's what the problem is with the modern Democratic Party. The only reason why they seem quote unquote professional ever is because most of the people that they're talking to and are interviewing them are not actually asking them hard questions. They're choreographed. It's a dance. It's a fake wrestling match.
It's a dance, and then it's a really good analogy because later on I found out that apparently his lead guy was very upset at the Joanne Reed producers
Oh, I'm
because
sure they were. I'm sure they were.
I asked him a question, and he's like, "How dare you ask me this question instead of answering this question? Let me just give this word salad AI chat GPT answer I printed out that I think will appease everyone and say nothing and stand for nothing." But he got pissed off. He got more pissed off, and he showed more life in his anger
Yep.
against me than he has against Republicans, which was very telling.
This honestly, and that I'm glad you said it that way. His reaction to you had more anger to it than anything that I've seen him react to in the last year of the second Trump presidency, including his own constituents being disappeared, being deported and sent to concentration camps. You asking him a legitimate question. And can I ask you, maybe this isn't the time to ask it, did he know you were going to be on that call?
He said yes. Joy told him. I was like, all right. I told Joy, I'm like, does he know I'm here? He goes, yes. I'm like, all right. I don't think they did their due diligence.
That's the weirdest part about. So, just for people who don't know how this shit works, I'll get called into Democratic Party strategy meetings, but no one's doing an interview with me. You know what I mean? Like that's how this works. Like they're willing to hear what I have to say, but they don't want it recorded. And so it is a situation where like if they got on there and they didn't know who you were based on maybe they know you more from CNN. I don't know. I don't know how the hell it happened, but I thought it was the perfect collision of like I don't think I've seen a better pulling back the curtain moment in years. I was
And then Joy had my back. Someone asked, Joy
yeah.
was upset at me at all. She said, "Good for you, man."
Yeah.
I don't think she'll mind me saying that. She said, "You did what was meant to be done." And she's the one who later on said, "This was not a strategy." She says, "It kind of worked out like good cop, bad cop." Good. I thought it was legitimate because I'm the one who told her. I said, "Listen, the way the script works, Joy." I told this to Joy, knowing how the script works, knowing how the game is played. Joy, tell Jeffrey's team, um, just throw me under the bus. That's what I told Joy. And I said, say, you didn't know I would ask that so you could maintain your access. And she said, no, that like you were awesome. Well done. Because I don't think Democrats used to respond to me. So I did a test, Jared. I won't mention who, but I messaged the three comms people of three Democrats who've kind of come on my show afterwards. No response. So I think I'm going to get iced out. That'll be my punishment.
Worth it. No, it is. I don't know how else to say it. I'm glad that we're
It's my
communicating.
Angela Bassett waiting to exhale moment. Well, might as well just throw and then just and then just walk away from the exploding car.
But if that's what it is, then it's worth it. Like, and by the way, on the idea that they didn't know it was coming, you know what it reminds me of? Back in 2016, Jeb Bush got asked in one of the debates about Iraq, and like he was like he wasn't prepared. Like, well, of course they're going to ask you about Iraq. What are you doing here? If that is, I watched it and I literally thought it was one of those like moments where it's just like, yeah, I got fuck you money. I'm not worried about this.
Yeah. I'm fine. I'm good. But your question about your response to his question about APAC, which I thought was so, and again, folks, that his response to the APAC one, I know
Yep.
the abolish ICE one is the one that went viral, but listen to the APAC one because I gave him the receipts. APAC spent $2.3 million against Democrats because the guy who was center left and pro-Israel, Tom Malinowski, just went a smidgen away from APAC talking points. He said, yeah, maybe we should visit, maybe, putting some restrictions on arms to Israel if they continue their genocide. That's it. That's it. Right. He didn't sign on anything, but he was open to it. So they spent $2.3 million against him,
Yep.
thinking their preferred Democratic candidate would win. Instead, who wins is the progressive, most pro-Palestinian, most pro-abolish ICE, Working Families Party, Representative Mejia. And then again, Tom Malinowski, I don't know if you've seen his comments. He's now straight up radicalized against APAC. And all these people are like, yeah, this is what APAC does. APAC spent insane amount of historic money against Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman. And I asked him, well, maybe it's time to, not take money from a group that actively hurts Democrats. And then I asked him, do you still take money from APAC? He said, I'll take money from who I, want to. He didn't say no, Jared.
Oh,
I
no.
mean,
No.
what other Democratic party, what other party does that? This is a group that is actively hurting your own party. And you're like, sure, no problem.
And that's the thing, Wash. Like I again, we talked about it in past episodes. What happened with Zoran gave the entire game away. Like it was just
That's
so
true.
obvious. Like Bill, I'm in the Epstein files. Clinton, like, was immediately in New York. It was like, hey, this other predator, he's the right choice here, right? We're gonna take care of that. Don't worry about this Democrat. It is obvious that they can't even handle, like, you didn't even ask questions that were pointed. You asked just questions, and it's just like so pissed off that you would even ask that. Like, what are we talking about APAC here? It's like, what are you talking about? You're literally talking with a group. It would be like asking Ezra Klein or Derek Thompson, being like, hey, why are you taking money from the Koch brothers? They're like, whoa, we're talking about opportunities here.
Talk about abundance.
Yeah, we're talking about abundance. Wait, why are you asking this question? But they're not going to get asked that question, right? Because everybody who has access to it is going to be vetted. The fact that this guy who wants to be Speaker of the House couldn't even handle that question it's incredible. I think it gives it away how paper soft this party is. The leadership of this party has to have all this stuff controlled, or else they can't handle it.
And I'll tell you afterwards, a person who was a leader in the party, you'll know him as a nerd and was part of the Biden administration, then acted as hall monitor and is in my Twitter DMs because I said I'm not going to support Newsom. And they're like, how? We should give him grace. Why?
Grace.
Yeah.
What grace? Like, for real.
That's an exact quote.
He has thrown gay and trans people under the bus. He has basically systematically tried to eradicate the homeless population of California. And there has never been a better friend of Silicon Valley as they destroyed democracy in the United States of America. And on top of that, if you don't believe any of that, go look at his podcast. Like, are you hanging out with Steve Bannon, Wash?
No. Or Charlie Kirk.
Or Charlie
Ben
Kirk?
Shapiro. And the reason why he's doing it, folks, that's so gross is because a liberal, a Democratic governor from California has never become president, Kamala Harris. So what he's doing, in addition to trying to win over the base, is he's showing red America, MAGA America, I'm kind of like you. That's the plan. But in doing so, look at how many people he's throwing under the bus, the rest of us. What is he running for? You know what they're running for, folks? They're running for power. For the sake of power. They have no agenda. They have no, ask them. If you have no bold policies, then you tell me, what are you running for? What they're running for is, I believe this is my birthright. I believe in power for the sake of power. And I want to return to the status quo. And the status quo is me and my rich donors. And you will be the peasants. And we'll keep business as usual. But we'll give you back some freedoms. And you're going to enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, F you. Which folks, look at the Democratic Party. Hey, can you have a Palestinian speaker? Shut your mouth. F you. You're going to vote for me or Donald Trump? Hey, can you abolish ICE? Shut your mouth. F you. How dare you say that? We have an election coming up. It's been like that for 10 years. They have us in a headlock, and I don't think it's going to work anymore.
Look at two things. If you're watching this and you're like, I don't know what this is and I don't believe it, do yourself a favor, go Google Biden administration tells black people to out-organize. Just Google. Basically, everybody in the South was like, they're taking away our rights. We need help. And the Biden administration's answer to them was that they needed to out-organize it. that the administration wasn't going to help them. Meanwhile, go back and listen to the last or the couple of podcasts that Ezra Klein put out for the New York Times following the 2024 election. And Waj, what do we find in that? We find he's like, oh, these groups, which, by the way, is just the most sanitized racial slur I've ever heard. These groups, they're the ones hurting the Democratic Party. We'd be in meetings and there'd be a young person of color there. Who asked her to come in here? Why is she doing any of this stuff? And what you just brought up about Newsom, he thought the winds had changed. He
Yeah,
thought because Donald Trump, quote unquote, won the
there you
popular
go.
vote, that it was okay, and that's where the winds were going, which tells you everything about his political acumen. He didn't understand what was going on. So if you take a look at all of these things, what you find is that everything that we hear about inclusion and protection and diversity and liberalism and all these things from these people, they don't mean it. They say it when it's convenient, much like you'll hear from Target. We're all for LGBTQ people. We're all for, Gay Pride Month. What happens the moment Donald Trump wins an election? That's gone, right? They never meant it. It was only when it was advantageous. And quite frankly, you are much better off trying somebody else and failing than you are succeeding with a person who does that.
Folks, people are like, well, why are you saying this now? Because we have this one rare moment, this magic window. I think this magic window is going to last maybe 9-10 months. It's primary season. This is it.
Yep.
Any opportunity we had to change course, it's right now. And
Yep.
going back to what Jared's point is, I think it's an important point. What increases my anger rarely, but I try to suppress it because I'm fasting. Is these are existential crises. People are dying. ICE is killing people.
Yep.
ICE is kidnapping people. There are people in concentration camps, and you see them move like sloths. Right? Climate change, folks. You have no idea how it's about to hit us. AI, you have no idea how it's about to hit us. The oligarchy, they're openly sharing their supervillain plot, right? This is existential crisis like every single day, and we have slots unwilling to fight. So we have this one moment where we have to put the fear of God in them, and we have to primary them. We have to warn them. We have to tell them we're not going to vote for you. And I think that's what has them shook. I know it has them shook because Nancy Pelosi and the Kingmakers said Gavin Newsom's your guy, and I heard Hassan Piker and a few others and me and others say, nah. And they're like, wait, what do you mean, Matt? We're telling you. And we're like, nah. So this is it. Now's the moment, folks. And Donald Trump will do what Donald Trump will do. We know Donald Trump, folks. Everyone who's been watching us, Jared and I have been talking about it for 10 years. Fascist, authoritarian. Okay, yes, we know he's terrible. What's the alternative? How do we, in one of our alternatives, unfortunately, what we have is a Democratic Party. So we have to use every lever at our disposal, but we have to make the Democratic Party into the tool that actually represents us and brings about accountability. Because if we don't change it, what's going to happen is they're going to come and it's going to be business as usual. That's right. The cycle will repeat. I scratch your back, you scratch my back. We will get poor. They will get richer. You'll see more Merrick Garlands. Jared, final word to you.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to point out, like, we have numbers now. Like, there's a mass consensus on this. The 60 to 80% of the country wants to move to the left, and not just the left, like the real left. Like, they really are ready to go far left. And you'll notice, by the way, Wash, the Democrats are always about what is it Iglesias always says? Popularism,
Yeah.
like chasing the polls. Isn't it weird that they chase the polls until the polls aren't in their favor? And they're like, polls aren't everything. Like, we got to worry about moderates, right?
Tax the rich. No.
Hey, what
Medicare for all. No.
they're not going to do it on their own. We've already seen they have no desire to do it. It's the time to give up on this fake shit. Like, they are not going to reform themselves. They're not going to change themselves. That's not the way entrenched power works. And so we have to force them to do it. We have to demand that we actually get represented. That's the issue. We're not actually being represented now. We have no representation. We have to demand it, and we can't just be like, well, I guess it's a Democrat, I'll vote. Like, you have to let them know we're not going to settle for scraps anymore. This is our moment.
This is our moment. Jared, always a fantastic conversation. And earlier today, Danielle said, hey, me, Jared, and you have never, ever been on the same podcast. Like, we haven't. So we'll actually invite you. Yeah.
How,
We were like,
how's
oh, yeah, good point. And so we're going to actually work on that in the next 2 weeks. Jared, shamelessly promote yourself, sir.
Yeah, dispatches from a collapsing state. I could really use y'all's support. Of course, independent media right now I think is more important than ever. So I need that help over there. There's the Muckrake podcast and the check-in with Danielle Moody, and that's where you can find me.
What's the primary source of your income? What can help you the most?
That'd be dispatches from a collapsing state.
So become a paid subscriber, and I'm assuming it's what, $5 a month?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's nothing. Cheapo. Hold on, give me 1 second. I'm gonna put in the link right now. Here it is. Everyone who is watching, the nearly 1,600 people, 1,600 people, subscribe to Jared. It's free, just like mine. You can at least subscribe, and if you have a few dollars, become a subscriber. Jared is completely independent, which is what allows us to speak without fear and favor, and allows me to ask Hakeem Jeffries what I thought was very fair, legitimate questions, and he didn't like that. This is the left hook. I have a 25% off special. It's $3.75 a month for this last week. I've kept it for 2 months because people seem to like it. So forever, $3.75, but only if you use the link, which is the left hook substack.com/special for the almost 1,700 people joining us. This will be up later today on our Substacks. Thank you all for watching. Thanks you, Jared. I appreciate it, folks. It's Ramadan. So unlike my usually masochistic 4 hours in a row block, I'm actually going to stop today. We have people coming over to open up the fast in about an hour and 20 minutes. So
Lovely.
look at that. See, I'm learning. I'm trying to evolve and adapt. Thank you all. Have a great weekend. Be kind, be informed, and please, oh, please don't be a fascist. Thank you, Jared.